The first time Nellie closed the door behind her, she felt like she was leaving not just a house, but a piece of who she once believed she was. Her small apartment in the city smelled of coffee cans and old dreams, and as she walked down the hallway, suitcase heavy in hand, she wondered if perhaps this was all there was, until she heard a faint hum of possibility. 5 years ago, Nellie had arrived in the city with nothing but a worn-out sketchbook and a promise to herself she would capture the world not just with images, but with meaning. Her childhood in the small town of Willow Creek had taught her that beauty existed in the ordinary, a dew-laden spiderweb in dawn light, her father's worn hands, her mother's quiet laughter. So she believed that if she could just make her art seeable, she could make it matter. But the city was bigger than her sketchbook. She found work waiting tables, cleaning tables, carrying trays. Every night she returned home exhausted, open to the flicker of her laptop screen. She'd scroll portfolios, watch tutorials, and practice. Her sketchbook filled with shadows and half-formed faces, and still the door seemed locked. Galleries told her she didn't have the right look. Agents said her portfolio lacked polish. Friends told her to get real and find something steady. It was during one long night, with the espresso machine's hiss echoing in her veins and the city lights trembling through the window, that Nellie met Marcus. He was a veteran photographer whose hands told stories, calluses and wrinkles, yes, but also kindness. He looked at her sketchbook and said, "These aren't mere drawings. They are questions you're asking the world, and you're brave enough to ask them." That moment changed everything. Marcus offered a mentorship, not as a favor, but as a collaboration. He had lost his wife to cancer the year before, and in his grief, he'd nearly abandoned his camera. But meeting Nellie reminded him of something. When you reframe loss, you don't just recover, you become louder. He asked her to join him on an assignment photographing the aftermath of a natural disaster in a remote region. It was messy, raw, human. Nellie hesitated. What if she failed? What if she saw too much? But she said yes. They traveled together, through dust and heat and the scent of shaken earth. Nellie's heart raced with each shutter click. She saw children picking through rubble, mothers carrying blankets of uncertainty, fathers trying to rebuild with bare hands. She wanted to sketch, but the camera moved faster than she could, freezing stories in a single frame. And yet somewhere between frames she sketched anyway. In her mind, on envelopes, on her own skin. She felt alive. But the challenge was not only external. One night, in a small tent under a trembling sky, Nellie's panic rose. She had never been this close to sorrow, had never rescued a memory so heavy in a lens. She vomited, not from the heat, but from the weight. She told Marcus she couldn't do it, that her heart might break. He handed her his camera and said, softly, "Breakings aren't ends, they are openings." He didn't push. He waited until the night tapered off, then rearranged his blanket so hers was beside his. And in the darkness, Nellie slept for the first time without fear. The next day, they ascended a ridge overlooking a village half buried. Nellie lifted the camera and snapped a photo of a young boy standing inside a swallowed doorway, his expression a balance of curiosity, fear, and resilience. In that moment, she felt everything, the helplessness, the hope, the unyielding spirit that sweeps in when reason flickers. She lowered the camera, breathed, sketched in her mind, because sometimes you need both frame and memory. When they returned, Nellie looked at all the images and felt the weight of representation. Would she exploit? Would she honor? Marcus guided her, give voice, don't just show. So together they curated an exhibit, not polished studio, portraits, but raw testimonies of the human heart. The opening night was packed with strangers who gasped and cried and whispered. Nellie watched a woman touch the photograph of the boy and say simply, "There is someone fighting for us." And Nellie wept. But even with acclaim, the real challenge remained internal. Success had knocked at her door, but the old voices returned, "You're not enough, you've only had luck." She nearly stopped journaling, almost stopped sketching. She feared that what people saw was good, but what she felt was gone. Then Marcus fell ill. The cancer he'd fought before returned. The mentorship roles reversed. Nellie sat by his hospital bed, sketchbook in lap, trembling fingers. Marcus said, "Now you lead." He placed his camera in her hand. She caught it, swallowed the fear, and promised in the weeks that followed. Nellie organized a fundraising series, an exhibition in multiple cities, proceeds going to rebuilding efforts and support for families affected by disaster. She traveled, yes, but with purpose. She invited the boy, now a teenager, to speak at one show. He didn't arrive with bitterness, but with a smile that said, "Here I am." The photograph of him stood as symbol, not of tragedy, but of resilience. Years later, standing on the stage in her hometown, Willow Creek, Nellie scanned the faces in the audience. Her mother, her father, Marcus in a wheelchair but smiling, the boy grown into a young man studying architecture. She told the story of the sketchbook and the camera, of loss and possibility, of darkness and light. She said, "The world will tell you to be perfect, but you must be human. You must be brave enough to show what breaks and what repairs." And then she ended with this: "We are all broken, but we are not done. Our scars are not exits, they are entrances." The audience rose. The applause was loud, but Nellie listened for the quiet, the hearts flickering awake. And as she walked off the stage, suitcase in hand, she felt she wasn't leaving anything behind this time. She was carrying the light forward.